Welcome to Truth Be Told About Going Wild. I'm your host, Robert Hensley, and this is the podcast inspired by the principles of personal rewilding. In 1984, the noted biologist and naturalist Edward O. Wilson proposed one of the earliest theories for why nature is good for us. He suggested it was because our ancestors depended on nature to survive, so humans evolved to be drawn to the natural world. He believed each of us was born with what he called a biophilic tendency. Since then, evolutionary explanations for the human-nature connection have remained incredibly popular. In a 2024 paper in People and Nature, ecologist Yuya Fukano of Japan's Chiba University and Masashi Soga of the University of Tokyo suggested that early humans exposed to cycles of drought and wet weather evolved a positive response to the color green. It ensured that they'd be drawn to lush vegetation that might signal the presence of water, shade, and wildlife that they needed to survive. In 1991, health scientist Roger Ehrlich explained some of nature's health-boosting effects by stipulating that while humans have an inborn tendency to respond positively to natural settings, such as feeling soothed and relaxed, their response is shaped by their culture and individual experiences in nature. Many unthreatening natural environments that we can safely explore and contemplate, whether forests or seashores, please and relax us. Then in 2022, 32 people took part in neuroscientist Sonia Sudamak and her colleagues' study in Berlin's Grunwald Forest. After spending an hour strolling along a path leading through the trees, participants were rushed to the researchers' nearby lab, where each person had their brain activity analyzed in a functional magnetic resonance imaging machine, that is an MRI. The scientists wanted to know if the nature walk had affected the participants' brains. Specifically, they were looking for the amygdala, that part of the brain which processes fear or stress and triggers the body's fight or flight response. Inside the scanner, participants were shown images of scared human faces to provoke activity in their amygdalae. Remarkably, participants who had taken the walk in the park had amygdalae that were much less reactive than during the tests that were conducted ahead of time. By contrast, another group of 31 participants who had walked along a busy street showed no difference in their brain reactivity before and after the walk. In their report published in Molecular Psychiatry, Sudamak concluded that this nature walk may have built resilience. She suggested the forest made people less prone to stress. The cultures in Japan and South Korea have long been aware of these health benefits and have rich traditions of forest bathing, an intentional relaxation and awareness exercise done while immersing oneself in nature. Even in North America, many indigenous peoples have historically recognized that in order for you to be holistically healthy, you have to have a balance in your life with your environment. And that contributes to your mental, physical, and spiritual well-being. This comes from Navajo Nation member Gloria Tom, who is a senior strategic and special policy advisor for the National Wildlife Federation, who also works with its Tribal Advisory Council. Even our immune systems may get a boost from exposure to the natural world. In one 2024 study of 1,244 U.S. adults published in Brain, Behavior, and Immunity, researchers found that individuals who spent more time in nature had lower blood concentrations of a molecule called C-reactive protein, a sign of inflammation that can give rise to chronic diseases, stress, and mental health issues. Unsurprisingly, research on the benefits of nature underscores the need not only to protect wild places, but also to bring more nature into cities in the form of parks, community gardens, and additional greenery. Nushin Razani, a pediatrician and researcher at the University of California, San Francisco, says that ideally nature should be just a part of regular life, like exercise and getting enough sleep. Yet many neighborhoods, especially marginalized communities that could benefit the most from nature, don't have access to green spaces. In an analysis of nearly 50,000 children and teenagers across the United States published in 2020 in Preventive Medicine, Razani found that nearly a quarter of the children in that study lived in neighborhoods that lacked parks, and that was especially true for those from non-white families and who had lower incomes. Razani and others hope that park prescriptions, programs in the U.S. which allow physicians to connect their patients to nature through partnerships with parks, can address this green space gap. In California, she and her colleagues organize monthly outings for families who might otherwise have limited access to parks. Sudamak says that this research and their findings are more important than ever today, when more than half the world's population lives in cities, a proportion expected to rise to nearly 70% by 2050. This urban-centered trend, along with increasing indoor and on-screen lifestyles, as well as the unequal access to nature, may be a major contributing cause to the rise of mental health problems like anxiety and depression. These issues are becoming increasingly more common in urban places. Continuing research could be paramount to the protection of nature and the expansion of green space around us, proving that it is just as much of a priority for human health as it is for conservation. Thank you so much for listening today. Again, this is another episode of Truth Be Told About Going Wild with your host, Robert Hensley. Remember, there are 2 opportunities each week for new content from the Truth Be Told family of podcasts on the Club Paranormal channel on YouTube. Tony Sweet each Friday with the original Truth Be Told. And of course, Mondays, Truth Be Told About Going Wild. And each of those shows goes live at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 Eastern on their respective days. If you would like to know more about what I'm working on, please feel free to visit my website at www.rhnaturereconnect.com. Again, that's rhnaturereconnect.com. And you can also join my Personal Rewilding with Robert Hensley community on Patreon. There's an option for a free subscription, or you may choose to pay $15 a month for more exclusive content. In any event, thanks again for listening, and until next time.